let's see here. Let's figure out how to advance the slides. Okay, so that was a great introduction. I will spend no more time talking about myself because that's really not important. What is important, however, is that we recognize that it's 2012, and I hope by now, now that it's almost through July, I think we've probably figured that out. But the key to take away is that in 2012, one-to-one marketing really doesn't work anymore. And so prospective students and current students in particular are just too savvy for overt marketing messages. And recently, Higher Ed Live, if you're not familiar with Higher Ed Live, it's a really wonderful site, higheredlive.com. And they live stream events. They do weekly web shows. And as you already mentioned, Ashley Hennigan, who I co-presented with at Penn State, hosts one of their spin-off shows, Admissions Live. So recently, Higher Ed Live covered a student panel in Chicago called Teens Talk Live, and these were recent high school graduates, and they were in a room with a bunch of higher ed recruiters and marketing and communication professionals, and they were being peppered with questions about their experience receiving mailings from institutions, their experiences with social media, how did they use the website, how did they like to be contacted, and it was really clear in their responses that they really recognize what is marketing speak and what is coming officially from the institution and what is not. Even if it is still coming from the institution, they can tell the difference between a student speaking authentically and candidly versus, that stereotypical girl under tree photo with the big smiling face and the right ratio of men to women and blacks and Asians and white people all arms around each other. So they understand what we're doing. So that's one of the takeaways of it's 2012. And that episode, it's an hour and a half long, but it is on higheredlive.com, and so I definitely recommend checking it out because it's super interesting. But
yeah,
go ahead.
About the QR codes. That's the one I checked into.
Yes, that was the best. One of the people in the room says, "So what do you think of QR codes?" And the kids are like, "What are QR codes?"
Yeah.
You can't help but laugh at that. I mean, because I know plenty of higher ed marketing and communication professionals, and I was one of them when I was working at St. Mike's, sitting there scratching my head trying to figure out how to use those QR codes. The reality is, prospective students, high school students, majority don't even know what they are. So, I mean, that being said, as we're creating content in 2012 that's trying to reach our prospective students and our current students, that content does need to be socially enabled, mobile friendly, and on demand. So I think that those are three things that you could write down: socially enabled, mobile friendly, and on demand. And those are themes that you're going to hear throughout this presentation. Please absolutely interrupt me if you have questions as we go. I just want to make that clear. So why should our content be social? I think there's 6 really great reasons that you're looking at on the screen. But simply put, great content tells a compelling story. It's going to help people understand why students should attend or alumni should support your institution. Great content inspires sharing, whether that be emailing links to a story or a video to your friends or family, or placing a link on your Facebook page. Great content moves people to share it, and it moves people to action. So what actions do we want prospective students to take? Obviously, we want them to inquire or apply. We want our donors to give. So we really want to utilize storytelling within that content and to utilize more channels more effectively and to curate the content that already exists. And if we can make those stories social and that content social, what we're going to do is have the ability to reach our market influencers when we're speaking about prospective students, obviously that's their parents and their guidance counselors. Going back to that Higher Ed Live Teens Talk episode, a lot of those students said that, you know, the guidance counselor provided them with that very first list of institutions to look at. So we know that the college counselor or the guidance counselor plays a really big role in influencing where a prospective student chooses to attend their 4 years of college. Social content is also going to deliver the information in a timely manner, whether that be through live streaming or live updates. I'm sure you have heard about the theater shooting in Colorado that happened last night at The Dark Knight Rises. That's a very timely example of how social content is delivering timely information to us. 10 years ago, me in Vermont would probably not have heard about something like that until I turned the television on. I woke up, I checked Twitter, and it was all I saw in my Twitter stream. Social content also allows us to provide customer service, and that's a point I'm going to come back to a little bit later in this presentation, but I think customer service is an incredibly important piece of working with students, prospective students, or current students, and I personally believe it's everybody's job at an institution to provide customer service, whether you are in the admission office or the marketing office, or you're a faculty member, or it's really our job to provide that service to students. Social content also allows us to build communities, of course, foster loyalty, and encourage advocacy. So why am I suggesting that we use students, and why am I talking to you today, and why I know that you are already thinking about putting together a social media team of students, and I think that's really smart. But let's spend the next few minutes actually talking about the benefits to using students and why it's really important, and why they can reach our target audiences better than we can. So obviously, time is a factor, and I imagine that every single one of you in that room is juggling multiple responsibilities. I would be shocked if somebody would, stood up and said, actually, I only have one responsibility, because that's just not the reality in any job. And the amount of time that I would imagine any of you can devote to social media is probably quite limited or potentially non-existent. So despite the energy that you may have, all the other responsibilities of, perhaps it's managing a website, working with students, doing print marketing or recruiting, or doing alumni outreach, meeting with current students. For all of those responsibilities and reasons, even if you have the most energetic and passionate, drive to work with social media, it's the time that you actually have to do that is limited. So using students to help create the content is going to open up more time for staff to analyze the data, and which in turn helps guide the students in what type of content they need to create, and is also going to help free up your time to partner more effectively, I think, with other marketing efforts and take care of all those other duties that you have. Of course, this is supposed to be showing that there are holes. This was the best image I could come up with for showing holes. So we have three.
Makes me hungry.
I know, right? I mean, who doesn't want to see images of cupcake batter in the morning? But so obviously institutions are facing shrinking staff, shrinking budgets. I would love for every president to walk into a marketing office and say, we're going to give you $20,000 to just do social media with, but the reality is that's probably not true. Open positions aren't being hired, and the nice thing is you have current students who are eager, who are looking for real-world experience, are looking to enhance their resume, and they want to help, and they can fill those holes. They can be the last 3 cupcakes. And when we, when we're young and energetic, and you have maybe some young alumni working on your staff, they can be a great place to start, but they too are still disconnected from the student culture because they are no longer living it. The students are living the culture of your campus, and they get the trends. They talk the lingo. They know what is popular. They can come up with creative ideas that are funny, that will be interesting to their peers. And I am in my 20s, and I could not have come up with the Harvard baseball "Call Me Maybe" cover like that Harvard baseball team did. So it's really, there are just things that a college student who's living that life is going to think is cool or fun or funny, and is going to reach their peers in a way that even somebody only 5 to 10 years out of college still cannot do. So I loved this tweet from Tim Neckrits after Penn State Web Conference. Some of us went over to the SUNY Quad Conference in Syracuse, New York, and did some presentations there. And this was one of my favorite quotes from Twitter from that conference, where Tim said, "Your students tell your stories, share ones that align with your brand. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things live our brand." So I just wanted to highlight that tweet because I thought it was pretty great. And for the same reason we don't have faculty or admissions staff giving campus tours is why we should have students connecting with other students via social media and other online channels. Again, they're living the experience, they have the authority of what life is like on campus, and really when we think about it, we are giving them and placing so much trust in them and giving them so much authority as tour guides already, or as ambassadors for the college already. They are delivering the important messages on the campus tour, and chances are you don't have, you aren't a fly on their shoulder as they're walking around. So we are placing so much trust in them to go out with these students and parents already, and really they can say whatever they want. You can train them all you want, but once they get out there, who knows what they're actually saying. So of course we hope that they are trained well and they're delivering the right messages, but allowing them to deliver those same messages in other channels like social channels, really there's really no difference, besides the fact that you actually have a transcript of what's being said on the social channels, and some people see that as a risk. I see that as an assurance that these students are going to probably pay more attention to what they're saying when they know that there's a transcript following them. So whenever I speak about this, there's always somebody who says, well, it's more risky to put them on Twitter. And my response is always, well, at least you can see what they're saying on Twitter. There's no audio recording available after they get back from the tour. Who knows what they actually said there. We also know when we're talking about student-to-student communication, peer reviews are trusted, and that's true. Just in regular life. I'm sure many of you use Yelp to check out restaurants, or TripAdvisor to look up hotels. So we are already trusting peer reviews, and high school students and college students are no different. That Teens Talk Live, there was a good 5 to 10 minutes spent on just talking about sites like College Confidential and College Prowler, where students can go and talk to other current students and people who have applied to the institution, or maybe even alumni, and they can get that, quote unquote, real deal about what's going on. This is very popular and what those students are seeking. And it was really interesting how so many students on that panel said that they used College Prowler and College Confidential far more than they actually used the institution's website, because they wanted to see the good and the bad. And so they understood that, they could trust the good that much more when they also heard that everything isn't rosy and perfect 100% of the time. So I think that's important to keep in mind if we're developing a social media team, that they have to be authentic and real, and then that will gain trust from current students and prospective students. And when it comes to video, at least, we know that students trust their peers more than the institutional messaging of the college or university. This is data from the 2010 Noel Levitt's E-Expectations report, and it shows the red arrows pointing to the fact that the videos that are most valuable to prospective students are the ones made by both the college and by students. So students really are the story. So that's, I hope, what we've taken away so far. And what they're doing and learning and seeing is really what the university is about. And so a photo of the admission office on someone's blog, and full disclosure, this is my sister's blog. She is a student blogger and part of a social media team at the college she's attending, where I used to work. This photo of the admission office on her blog with the lovely rainbow in the background has a more authentic feel and just a different feel than if we were to see a super polished photo of the admission office on the website. So just because this isn't the most professional photo out there, it may reach somebody or it may touch somebody in a different way and maybe a better way than something that is super polished, and I think that applies to video as well. So there are obviously tons of tools that can be used, and the difficulty is choosing which ones are worth your time to use and which ones are not. And so that really requires focus and teamwork, and to think about goals before tools. And so all of these tools can tell your stories more effectively and can drive traffic back to your website and encourage students to find out more information or learn more stories. And I think there's always a temptation to think about what the next new thing is, like Pinterest would be a good example of the shiny object of the moment. But while it is worth experimenting, and I'm the first to be a proponent of experimenting with new sites and new tools, it's also really important to stay focused and keep producing high quality content as opposed to just diverting attention to the shiny tool of the day, or something that will wind up being extremely unproductive. So as I said, when we think about our goals, that can help us determine what tools we need to use. So perhaps your goal is that you want to increase the number of applications to a particular major within the college by a certain percentage. And so obviously you're not just going to use social media to do that or just a social media student team to do that, but figuring out how that student team can measurably impact and realistically impact that goal is important, and putting numbers to that goal is important so you can actually go back and measure if you've been successful. And sometimes that means putting numbers that you're guessing, but putting numbers and making sure that your goals are actually achievable and realistic are important. And I always like to put a time limit on whatever goal I'm giving myself in any particular aspect of my job, just because then that drives you to have an end date where you will actually go back and measure and see if you achieved your goal. So before we start talking about student social media teams in particular and some of the different tools that we can use, I just want to pause and see if there are any questions or comments so far.
We're still here, we're thinking.
Okay.
Anyone? Nope, not right, not just yet.
Super. All right. So feel free to interrupt if something comes up. So so I know after speaking to Anna Marie a little bit that you are thinking of putting together a student social media team, and the question I think that you have to ask yourselves is this team going to function as individuals within a team, or are they just going to function as a team and have no individual presence? So I think that that is a question I can't answer for you because there are success stories for both. My experience has largely been promoting the individual within the team, but we will see an example a little bit later on a few more slides of how it can be very effective to just go with the team approach and work as a united group. So I think that's a question that definitely needs to be answered. Let's start with blogs. I think that blogs are probably one of the best ways to kick off any sort of social media student program. They can be a forum for combining and aggregating a lot of different types of content. And if you're hosting your blogs, I would highly suggest using WordPress or Blogger to host the blogs. What that will allow you to do is actually help your search engine optimization, because you would assume that these students are going to be talking about the college, and so they will be linking, and you can encourage them to be linking back to your site. So there's definitely some SEO strategy that can go into blogging as well. But at its most simplest form, these blogs are focused for either prospective students or current students. The topics will be different, but the goal is probably similar in letting people know what life is like at the college, what opportunities exist, what events are going on, what resources are available. So it's getting people in the door by sharing all those really great things, but then once they're there, it's encouraging them to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. When I was working at St. Michael's, our program was largely focused on recruitment. However, we saw a really nice amount of traffic coming internally to the blogs because other current students were recognizing that these bloggers were talking about different activities going on campus, and the blogs became a resource for the current students to find out what was happening at the college. So it was a nice, unexpected, benefit to these students doing what they were doing.
Right, Mallory. That's kind of like where we started. We started this group, and it was more focused on recruitment. But we've kind of evolved into other things. Like, okay, you get them here, give them the best possible experience while they're here. So I think we need to cover everything, not just recruitment. So
yes. And what's really great, and you had shared with me some information about the Arizona Student Union, and I have some examples here, and I want to talk about that a little bit further. But I watched a number of their videos, and they're really well produced. But they are focusing on serving current students, but I can see how prospective students would absolutely gain a really great glimpse into what life is like at that institution by watching these videos that aren't even targeted to them.
Right.
So I definitely think it can go both ways if it's being crafted in the right way. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So when we're thinking about this came from the 2011 Nolevitz report, so this is, again, focused on prospective students, and I hate this stat because it says that only a quarter of prospective students are looking at blog postings, and people get all upset and say only a quarter of students. Oh my goodness, we're wasting our time. When I think about all of the different activities that we used to do in the admission office at St. Mike's, I can think of very few that actually touched a quarter of students. So I would argue that 25 to 30, if you're touching 25 to 30% of your prospective students just through blogging, that's actually pretty good. There are, when I would go to a high school, I would talk to like 10 students. That's certainly not anywhere, that's not even 1% of the number of students in the database. So I think that this that shows a good thing. And I think that it's probably, the patterns are probably very similar for current students. I also don't think current students and prospective students always necessarily recognize when they're looking at a blog, especially when that blog is skinned really well and appears to be just another page on the website. The College of William and Mary does a really nice job of that, and unless you're aware of what a blog really is, you would probably have no idea that's what you're looking at. The College of William and Mary shared with us some of their statistics to their student blogs, and I thought the numbers were very impressive. That, in a 1-year time period, this is a great view of the admissions cycle. You can see that they got about 13,500 visits in a month. You can see that where there were spikes, probably around admission deadlines and in March, where admission decisions likely went out. The time on site is really great. Bryn Mawr College started a blogging program this past year, and so this is a more limited view and is a brand new program, but they've still received a healthy amount of page views, and the average time on page is still quite high. They did this with 0 advertisement on the main Bryn Mawr College site. So a lot of this search is organic or just via social media. And then the program that I was running at St. Michael's College, we were receiving about 75,000 visits a year to the blogs, and this landing page would see an average time on page around 20 minutes, which I'm not sure how familiar everyone in the room is about what is a good or a bad average time on page, but usually if it's between 1 and 2 minutes, you're like, oh, this is pretty good, 1 to 2 minutes. 20 minutes is somewhat unheard of. So, these links, they would click on my blog or about me or the Twitter symbol, and it would open up in a new page. And so I figure that prospective students probably were not staring at this for 20 minutes, but they were actually engaging with the content of the different blogs for an average time span of about 20 minutes, which I think is pretty cool. My sister, again, she'll be famous by the end of this hour because I use her a few times, but I use her as an example because she's really doing it right. And she's creating posts that are interesting to prospective students, but she's also creating posts that are interesting to current students. Higher Ground is a music venue in Burlington, Vermont, and I think there's clearly a lot of value in this post to a prospective student or a current student. So she's really doing it right, thinking about what is going to be interesting to people and engaging. And what are topics that, if you're checking out the college or checking out Burlington or already there, what are some places you might want to go? Ashley at RIT, her group of RIT behind the scenes students. This is a feed of their different blog posts, and you can see that they're actually also contributing a lot of video content as well as just regular blog posts. It's really important to always remember that your audience likes to consume information in different ways. So one person might want to read, another person might want to watch. And we'll talk about YouTube a little bit more in a few minutes. But when we're just thinking about blogging, we have to remember that video blogging is also a really great visual, rich way of showing what you're talking about. So we had brought up customer service a little bit at the beginning of the presentation, and I think that there are 2 social tools that fall into this category really well, and that's Facebook and FormSpring. So I'll start with FormSpring because it's probably the one that few people in the room have heard of. FormSpring, in short, is a Q&A tool where students can your social media team can create either a FormSpring account for the team or FormSpring accounts for individuals, and then questions from anybody in the world, whether they have a FormSpring account or not, can be asked to them, and they can answer them. So you can see where this is going as far as customer service. The social media team at St. Mike's started using FormSpring as an institution, as well as each individual blogger was using FormSpring. That FormSpring has a widget that you can place on your blog. So if somebody's already reading your blog and has a question to ask, they can just go over to the widget, ask the question, and then that blogger, when they answer the question, it can feed right back into the blog itself. And we found in less than a year, we answered over 2,000 questions. I think that I could talk to you about FormSpring for 45 minutes, but what I'll do instead is just direct you to episode 9 in Higher Ed Live, where I actually do talk about FormSpring for 45 minutes. The problem, though, I think the key takeaway here, the problem that FormSpring solves is that students are afraid to ask questions in person. Ask a tour guide, they'll tell you that is absolutely the truth. And I don't think that changes when students get to campus. Sometimes they don't know where to go to ask the question, and sometimes they're just too afraid to. And the number one question that we got on our FormSpring accounts was, is there toilet paper in the bathroom? And it's just, it just kind of boggled me that people didn't realize that, yes, there's toilet paper in the dorm bathrooms. But of course, that's not something a prospective student is going to feel comfortable asking in front of a large tour group and, risk being laughed at. So I think that's a funny example, but an example of why this tool is solving a problem. And so again, my famous sister is on screen. This is her FormSpring account. And you can see that, she's getting all sorts of questions, some specific to the institution and some not. And it's totally, not a waste of her time to answer questions about, if you could time travel, would you go to the past or future? Because that is showing off her own personality and making it easier for the students reading her blog or reading her FormSpring account to connect with her. And you can see that some students are even leaving her messages from the FormSpring widget saying, I'm a big fan of your blog, and, it's great, I love reading it. I'm nervous about making friends because I'm shy, but your blog post made me feel better. And so, it's really nice that they can have this kind of interaction, and FormSpring allows them to do that. I rarely experienced any comments being left on the blogs themselves. What we often saw was students felt more comfortable leaving the comments via FormSpring, and then that would feed back in. And then there's Facebook, of course, and Facebook can be used in so many different ways. Penn State can use Facebook as an institution as a whole. The individual colleges can use Facebook. I'm not certain how granular it's gotten there, if majors in and of themselves are managing Facebook pages, but certainly a student social media team could have a Facebook group or a Facebook page, or they could be interacting as individuals within already existing spaces. So if the college is already maintaining a Facebook page and potentially getting questions from students, this is an example of a question that a student might ask an institution. You can see that, other students are actually responding, and this goes back to that student-to-student interaction and why sites like College Prowler and College Confidential are so popular. Eric isn't going to pick up the phone and call RIT. This is an example from RIT. He doesn't pick up the phone and call RIT to ask somebody with authority how the meal plan works. He wants to hear about it from a student, because it's not just about how it works, it's the opinion of, what meal plan should I get? Tell me your experience. He wants the experience behind it, not just the facts. And then, of course, the Arizona Student Unions, which I've already mentioned, they do maintain their own Facebook group. And actually, I think it's a page, not a group. But they are speaking to other current students and, telling them what's going on. They're leaving fun posts like, who can't wait for the school year to start already, you know, and commenting about the weather, maybe enjoy some delicious pinkberry. You know, that pinkberry link is going to take you to a video that they made about the new pinkberry on campus. So you can see the difference between using Facebook individually, which I think has a lot of merit to it, but also using Facebook as a social media team in and of itself can be a really great way to connect with other students too. And then if you have the ability to insert the student voice within the official page for the college or the university, you can do that and allow them to post as that official voice. However, make sure that they are identifying themselves. I think that that's really important. I worked with a student intern who would post a lot on the page. That freed up a lot of my time. But I always made sure that she identified who she was, so people knew it was coming from a student. And you know, when she first started posting, she did a little intro post on the page about who she was and why she would be posting, so it wouldn't come as a shock to people, you know, that this person named Mairead was suddenly starting to post on the page. But it worked out really well, and I was able to give her a lot of leeway to develop content that she felt would be interesting to current students. So she would, you know, do the weekend watch every Friday and tell current students, you know, her top choice for different events on campus. And then every Wednesday, she would interview a student from a different club on campus, and you know, that would give other current students the opportunity to learn a little bit more about a club that they might not be familiar with, and with a nice Q&A that's student to student. So it has, again, a different feel to it than if I were to have gone and interviewed Megan about the Common Ground Club. Now it's probably a time to bring up the idea of a content calendar, because if you are working with a group of students, it's a good idea to help manage their social media postings to various accounts, whether that be just on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. You know, I think simply you can use Google Docs for this, and it allows you to also keep track of what's going up there. The students can, you know, using some sort of model maybe similar to this or tailored to your needs, you can have the students go in and write in the information that they are planning to post, and that allows you to go in and approve it prior to it getting posted. Twitter is another really great tool that students can use as an individual or as a team or as an institution or a college. When I think about Twitter, and particularly with individuals using it, I think it's about accessing content versus the follower count that they, you know, gain. Putting feeds on the right places of your website so that current students or prospective students can see what's happening. Twitter is the microblog that's happening a handful of times a day. The student is saying, you know, that they had a really great meeting with their advisor as they leave that meeting, or that, you know, they're really excited that it's not snowing. They're probably not going to write a blog post or a Facebook post or create a YouTube video about the fact that it's not snowing. But that, you know, gives a glimpse about what campus life is like on that day, and would allow a prospective student to connect with what's going on. And so that content is just going to be a little bit different. But making it accessible is really important, because the reality is, you know, 13 to 22-year-olds are not the highest demographic of Twitter users. But that doesn't mean if they see the content, it's not going to resonate with them. So it's that quick daily update. You know, the topics are differing from blog posts. I also found that Twitter would help build the community among the student social media team that they actually started communicating with each other quite a bit on Twitter, and that was an unintended but really great bonus for using the tool. They actually got to know each other better and became better friends, and therefore became more invested in the program. And it's also educational for the students too, of course, as much as it's educational for any of you who are using Twitter and finding out information and thought leadership and new articles, et cetera. The same goes for the students who are using it. So I suggest, certainly feeding tweets via a Twitter widget. If they have a blog, put it on the sidebar of the blog. If they're being displayed on a website, you can use a Twitter bubble to allow students to instantly access that information, or you can push it to key pages of your website, and we'll actually see a few examples. So here's 3 different ways of looking at it. Again, the famous sister on the left who's maintaining her own personal Twitter account, but it's being fed into her blog and linked from a hub page for the college. In the middle, you have the Arizona Student Unions. They are a group of, I believe, 5 or 6 students, but they're posting as one. So multiple students are contributing to this account, but you don't know exactly who's posting, and that's okay because it's the team, and that's the direction that they've taken. And then on the right, you can see Emily and Tanner, who have been kind of branded with the RIT Twitter name and put into a stream of with all of their other team members. So that's certainly another route you can take. I don't have a screenshot of it, but if you go to Elizabethtown's website, you can see on the footer they have a social media stream of different tools actually feeding into their website. And I don't believe that Twitter is one of them, but it certainly could be if an institution was willing to feed Twitter into the footer of every page of their site. Video is certainly one of my favorite topics, and I think a really engaging way to interact with current students and prospective students. There's just a ton of studies and information out there that show that millennials are just consuming video content far more than other demographics, and that overall video consumption in the U.S., the average American who uses the internet is watching online video content. I believe I have the number here somewhere, and I'm looking for it. It's something like 180 million U.S. internet users are watching like 40 or 50 billion videos per month. So it's really outrageous how much video consumption has increased over the last few years. And there's certainly ways that as institutions we can take advantage of that. The Southern New Hampshire University really took this idea and put a lot of money into it and really blew it up and created a microsite to showcase students and to showcase their video. And you can see here, this is one of the pages where Jessica, one of their students, is actually talking about their program. So this is really focused on recruitment, but allowing students to share their stories. SIUC. Oh, sorry, is there a question?
Do you have any information on, or any stats on the kind of video they're watching? Because what we're seeing here on our end is a lot of video traffic that. You look at the stats on YouTube, we look at the same studies that you're referring to. Are they actually watching this kind of content, the kind of content that we would actually put out, recruiting content or person-to-person or current student to future student content? Or are we looking at just a few hundred views over the course of 3 or 4 years versus the kind of content that I see my 14-year-old watching, which is epic mealtime?
Right. Well, I think the answer is it's both. This video that's on the screen right now has 341 views, and it was published a handful of months ago. All the videos that you're seeing now have much higher views, ranging from 44,000 to nearly 1.5 million. These videos are very different than this one. So thinking about the type of video content is, I think, largely going to impact how many views it's getting. Is it fun? Is it, I think that's, how do I want to say this? I'm not saying that all university and college videos need to be rap videos. So I don't want that to be a takeaway. But I think that when we empower students to share their talents, which is what is happening here, 5 videos where current students are sharing their talents in a really unique way. And I think that when we don't deliver just your standard interview that looks like the news, the Channel 5 news at 6, that type of video is going to see a very different amount of engagement than a video that's actually going to draw you in, that's going to engage you from a visual, an audio. There's just so much more going on here in these type of videos that make you sit and actually say, I'm going to actually sit and pay attention to all of this.
So they want to be entertained, I think.
Right. There's an entertainment factor to it, and I think that, and that's, in some ways, that's unfortunate because not every video we want to make has to necessarily be entertaining. But thinking about the strategy behind why something like this is entertaining can help make a video like this a lot better. This video was created by students, and I actually think this video is pretty darn good. I think SIUC needs to promote it a bit more. But what this video could benefit from is just thinking about how the different pieces are fitting together, how the story is fitting with the music that's going underneath it, with the images that are being shown. Is it moving quickly enough? Something that's 1 minute and 44 seconds is pretty good, but can we get that under a minute, because the attention span is pretty quick. Going back to that Teens Talk panel, they asked some questions about video, and the students said that they did watch videos about institutions, that they didn't all necessarily think about going to YouTube and searching for that institution. So that, I think, makes me say that it's really important to make sure those videos are showing up on the website. Did that answer your question? I think I rambled a little bit there. But I do have a presentation I can share with you just on video, and there might be some ideas that you can pull out of that, because I actually break down different ways of focusing on video, whether it be videos about events or videos about different aspects of the application process, or whatever it might be, and I show some really great examples within that presentation that you might find helpful and maybe inspiring.
That would be good. Will you just send it an email or something, or? Yeah,
it's the presentation's on my EDUniverse profile, so I'll just send you a link to the presentation up on there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So let's flip through. Actually, one comment I want to share on this page, though I already talked about this page a little bit, but the mid-kid video that's in the center, that was not school sanctioned, and when it came out, Middlebury did not make an official comment on it, because it shows a life of partying and things that officially a college is probably not going to promote. But one of the YouTube comments on this video was from a student who said that this video probably makes students want to go to Middlebury than all the college's recruiting efforts combined, which I just thought was really interesting, but truthful. and probably not what we want here. So when we think about our website, though, it is important to incorporate social content right into the site as well. Full disclosure, Middlesex is an mStoner client, and this is something we created for them, but I think that it's a really great example. You can see at the bottom of the page the Life 360, which is photos, quotes, and videos submitted by the campus community. Management of this is as simple as clicking approve. So you can click, if you're on the site and you're within the community, you can click contribute. You can contribute a photo, a quote, or a video. It gets through the CMS, gets pulled into an approval queue, and then the person responsible for Life 360 can go in and click approve to all the different submissions. So this is, all content submitted by the Middlesex community. Middlesex is a independent high school. So I just think this is a really neat example of how you can incorporate social content right within the site. And of course, actually going back to, what type of videos and photos do people want to see, I think this is the type, some of these look really nice and professional, others don't. It's a nice mix. You've got really great quotes on here, like the one from Hannah. And it's just a really nice way of showcasing what's going on at the institution, as well as what's important to the people at the institution. Indiana University in Bloomington launched weareiu.com in February, and I just did a blog post on this on the mStoner blog that I can share that link with you as well. I'll make a note of that. But this is a hub page for stories. And it is focused on recruitment, but what Jay Steele has found is that a lot of alumni and current students are reading these stories as well and finding that the site is really useful to them. They have 120 regular student bloggers. Basically anybody who wants to can contribute, and it's completely volunteer. So they have a web to post form. If you don't want to be a regular contributor, you just want to tell one story, you can. So far, they've captured over 600 stories, and without any links from the official Indiana University site or the web pages or emails or official Facebook posts or tweets or anything, they've been able to get a really almost exclusive organic traffic to this site and a steady amount of traffic to this site. It's a mix of direct visits, search, and the We Are IU social media sharing, but a lot of it is through search and through like Google, Bing, Yahoo searches for Indiana University. People are stumbling across this page. It's all moderated and really capitalizes on students sharing their stories with each other. Here's just another example of some of the stories that are up there. Students can also link their Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn accounts to their profile and promote their stories to their friends and followers. So it's, again, getting back to that student-to-student sharing and that having a bit more impact and punch. When you get something from a friend, you're probably more likely to click on it than if the institution is emailing it to you. So, going back to that idea, is it a team or is it individuals? I like to use Ithaca College as a really great example. Rob Engelsman, who actually used to run their official Twitter account when he was a college senior, now is employed by Ithaca, and he meets weekly to discuss current social media trends, upcoming campus events, and how to best use social tools to promote and cover what's going on campus with a student social media team. So this team is primarily responsible for sending him information, and then he actually goes and posts it. So that's another way of thinking about how to structure something like this as well. And this is a quote that he shared with me. That's the reason why he structured it this way is because he wants to see everything that's going out the door. And so if that is a concern with you, this is certainly another option for how to go about using students. And I think, students definitely are willing to volunteer. There's always a question, are they volunteer or do we pay them? Marist has a huge social media team. I think they have 50 or 60 students who participate, and they're completely volunteer. And you can see on the screen the reasons why they say that they do it. It's pretty equal between, the sense of giving back to the institution, the opportunity to meet new people, the ability to add to their resume, and then some of the students want to become tour guides or work in the office or be interns. So there's, those promotional opportunities that they're seeking. I highly suggest, whether you wind up structuring your team as a volunteer opportunity or as a paid opportunity, that you use a contract, because a contract can outline the responsibilities, the benefits, and it can give you protection. So these are examples of what you might list as responsibilities, benefits, and then, of course, when it comes to protection, you can set standards within that contract, and you can help identify what is authentic. Of course, giving those students the ability to talk about the good with the bad, versus what is just inappropriate. So obviously there's a fine line. And then I do have an example contract. Anna Maria, I can't remember if I wound up sending that to you or not. If I haven't, I'm happy to do it. But yeah. This is an example contract.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
Okay, I'll add that to my list of follow-up for the email. So I will send that as a file.
But I could be wrong.
Yes, it's okay. I'll send it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll absolutely send it again. So a few ideas to start thinking about how to use students beyond what we've already talked about. You can have a student social media team run a video contest with current students, which is great because it's getting current students involved, allowing them to talk about maybe what they like about the institution, but then those videos can be repurposed in a lot of different places, and certainly can be recruitment focused. You can use students to a social media team to help do maybe more menial tasks that you don't necessarily have time for. So Andrew Carriega has students actually help upload photos to Flickr, tag them appropriately. So that's something that a student social media team could manage, whether it's the institution account or their own Flickr account. It'd definitely be an interesting way to use them. And then, some resources that have already been mentioned but are worth mentioning just one more time. There's Higher Ed Live. There's a number of episodes on Higher Ed Live that talk about social media student teams. There's one in the Student Affairs Live. There's a few in the Higher Ed Live bucket, and then there's one in the Admission Live as well. I think there's a total of 5 or 6. So those are definitely worth watching. And then eduniverse.org is a site where brand, web tech, and marketing professionals are contributing content, and we mStoner does curate the content for this site, but it's entirely community driven, and so you're getting a lot of thought leadership from people throughout higher education all over the world, contributing their ideas, their blog posts, their conference presentations. So there's definitely some information in eDuniverse that would definitely be applicable to what you're looking to do. And there's various topics within eDuniverse that you can peruse.